Now, Theodore Roosevelt at his core was both a progressive president and a conservationist. And we're going to be primarily looking at the idea of conservation. What do you think conservation means? Now, remember, when we're looking at words we probably don't know or longer words that we're confused about at first, we break it up into terms that we do know, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah, you see the word conserve in conservation, right? So what does conserve mean then? To use in moderation, limited use of, to not let it go to waste. Exactly. So conservation is what Theodore Roosevelt decided to use as policy because he wanted the country to use its resources to become a stronger country. But at the same time, he wanted to protect the natural beauty and landscape of what makes America, America, right? So he was influenced in 1883, I believe, on a trip to the Badlands, where he would go on frequent hunting trips and such. And he would write in his journal, in his diary or writings, lamenting basically about the loss of wildlife and how it seemed to be disappearing. And those frequent trips and other trips influenced him as president to create the national park system. And that's what we see today with parks such as Yellowstone and Yosemite. Now, why would we want to conserve our natural landscape? What do you think? Yeah. Right, to not only protect the wildlife and natural resources, but yeah, exactly. It's essentially to protect life, right? So let's turn to our first two articles and read into those a little bit. But actually before that, I'd like to talk about a personal experience I've had. Now, I went to Yellowstone National Park in I believe it was 2003 when I was about 8 years old. And I remember distinctly on that trip, we were driving down a road, right, a long highway, and I saw a small small bear coming across the road. And behind us, there were a whole bunch of other cars, following behind us, and a couple of cars in front of us too. But we stopped because we had to let that bear cross. But everyone got out. And everyone just, took out their cameras and started taking pictures and just admiring it, right? Just admiring it for what it was, for whatever the bear was doing. And obviously the mother might have been close by, so we wanted to stay back. But it's viewing nature in its natural state and not doing anything to harm it. So that's part of what conservation is we want to use the landscape, but we don't want to harm anything, right? So that's what that means. Now, why don't we turn to our two articles? Does everyone have the first article? Oh, you don't have one? There you go. All right, let's read this together as a class, and we'll go at a slow pace so that we can stop and ask information and certain questions. So, everyone ready? All right, follow along with my voice. National parks are protected areas of beauty. The first national park in the United States of America, Yellowstone, was established in 1872. Yellowstone Park is home to grizzly bears, wolves, and many other different kinds of animals. Yellowstone was not only the first national park in America, it was the first in the world. Now, in the first paragraph here, we can understand that national parks are established to protect animals, right? But at the same time, we know that they're places for people to visit. So that's kind of what conservation is. The National Park Service looks after America's national parks, places of historical interest, monuments, and buildings with the help of volunteers and outside agencies. Their job is to protect the national parks for the benefit of future generations and to help people visiting the parks enjoy them. So it's these agencies' duties to help ensure that both the wildlife and the people are basically getting along, that people are treating wildlife with respect. Third paragraph. Visitors to the national parks can hike in the woods, climb mountains, photograph animals, explore battlefields from the American Civil War, go swimming or river rafting, ride horses, or they can just enjoy a day outdoors with the beauty of nature. Not all the sites that the National Park Service manages are havens of peace and quiet. Some are historic sites in the middle of busy cities. So just because it is a national park doesn't necessarily mean it has to be all nature, right? So some of our conservation, conserved parks are located in the middle of cities. But even then, similar rules apply. You have to respect nature, right? And allow animals to do what they need to do. Last paragraph. The United States has 59 national parks altogether, and around 300 million people visit the 400 places that the National Park Service manages every year. So they have to watch a ton of people coming in and making sure they don't leave behind garbage or disrupt wildlife. So around 22,000 people work for the National Park Service, assisted by more than 220,000 volunteers. The most visited national park is the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, with over 10,000 million visitors annually.